I'm Mike Gerhard, and this is our nice 20-inch Powermatic bandsaw. We have had issues with the brake on this bandsaw, and we've had to actually replace the brake shoe a couple times. It's an expensive repair for barn, and so I want to emphasize the correct way to stop the blade on this bandsaw. So, turning it on, turning it off, and gently stepping on the brake, and you can feel it run down. We don't have to stomp on this brake. You don't have to put all of your weight on it. It's a new brake shoe, and you can actually smell it a little bit, but we ask you to be gentle with this brake and take a minute or so to let it coast down.